From one drummer to another, plus Matt, it's Stuart Copeland on the Music Universe podcast.
Thanks for including me in that, buddy.
Hey, I had to because you were here along with me, and it was such an absolute blast chatting with him. It was my first time, your second, and it didn't quite start out like we normally intro, so we kind of started chatting.
No, he came on and we just started having a chat, you know. But the most fun I had on this one was watching you guys just talk your drummer stuff, and I'm over here like, I'm not in the camp of a guitarist, but after hearing you guys just go merciless, maybe I will. Maybe I will be camp guitarist, lead singer from now on. No.
Well, just as he and I were chatting, everybody's always making fun of drummers. We get shit on all the time, and I've never quite understood it. Still don't. And it's finally time that everybody else in the band got.
As someone who has minimal musical skill, if any, I've never understood giving drummers so much crap because they're the backbone. They keep the time. They could screw you up if they wanted to by hitting a cymbal at a wrong time.
I've done it.
So
I've done it on purpose because the singer pissed me off. It's do what I want. Throw a stick up when they told me not to. Like, you don't get to do that. If we're an equal partnership, you don't get to do that.
No, the thing about this guy, though, the thing about Stuart Copeland is I really do put him up there on the level, and I'm not trying to kiss his butt if he hears this, but I really do put him up there on the level of Neil Peart, of just somebody who's not only an excellent drummer, of course, the late Neil Peart, the drummer and lyricist and all-around badass genius from Rush. I put Stuart up there on the level because, as you'll hear in the interview, he writes, he does orchestrations, he does opera, he does film scoring,
He's a man of many traits, and
his brain just doesn't stop.
Right,
he's a genius. He is what we would literally consider a genius talent. So I put him up there on the level of Neil Peart as one of the all-time greatest drummers in music history, not just rock history. And he is a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, by the way, and a 6-time Grammy winner. So,
yeah, I mean, his career just dates back more than 40 years, and he's been putting music in movies for quite a while. So very, very awesome conversation with him. And there's really not a good way to intro it because we just kind of, like we said, talked about it.
Started in, you two started cracking each other up with drummer jokes. So here it is, our interview with Stuart Copeland.
Now you're on your side.
Can you flip us by chance?
There you go.
I can flip me.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
And I can flip you the bird, okay?
Okay.
You asked for that?
I did. You're right, I did.
Yeah, you insisted on that one.
That's that drummer sense of humor.
I was going to say drummer to drummer. I love your studio.
Yeah. Oh what are you, a guitarist or something?
Drummer. Seriously.
Oh, really? Okay. So what do you throw a drowning guitarist?
I don't know all the jokes.
His amp.
That's true. Well, you know what? They always make fun of us, don't they? Like, we're there to help them, and they just make fun of us.
We are there to carry them.
Yes.
Exactly. I love that.
Foot down the highway, we carry those guys. And now that I actually, one summer, because I can do that, played guitar and sang at the front of the stage, like the front man guy, I can tell all the drummers of the world, we must unite and rise up against those guys up there, pretending that they're working, where the drummer is actually doing all the heavy lifting. They get paid just as much as us for standing there at the front of the stage, looking handsome while we're doing the actual chopping wood at the back of the stage.
You are absolutely right about that. And one thing I can't stand is when venues or other band members tell you not to bring your full kit. Do you tell them not to bring their full guitar rig?
Yeah, just bring one string.
Right? Don't bring it. It's too big. Well, there's
actually, maybe I've just been real lucky in life, but nobody's ever taught me to bring the full kit. But one time I did strip the kit down, and name check alert, name drop alert. I got called by George Martin to play the Hollywood Bowl, to play all the Beatles songs with the LA Philharmonic. the orchestral versions of all those Beatles songs at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes, Sir Martin. And so I had to be Ringo Starr for a night. So I figure if I'm going to do Ringo Starr, I'm going to cut it down and do it the way Ringo did it, with one tom-tom in the front, one on the side, couple of cymbals. And I discovered something, which is that it's really fun to play drums without all those drums in the way.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything's right there for the groove.
Well, right. I saw you at Pace University. Oh gosh, about my word, probably 5-6 years ago now.
We actually, New York.
Yeah.
New York
yes.
City. Yeah.
We
that was fancy.
Yes, we did an interview, you and I, for another show. I was at the radio station at the time, and we talked about drums and your orchestral music. And I know that you closed the night with some Police orchestrations. How is this recording different than what you do live, or is it what you've been doing live just now finally recorded?
One major difference. It's not a recording. It's a live show.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We're in Los Angeles, right?
I'm in Bakersfield, actually.
But your show broadcasts in Los Angeles?
Oh yes,
it's all over. It's the internet.
Oh, I see. It's wide. It's not in any one city. No, but it's a show. We're here today to discuss a show that I'm doing, which is the Police Deranged for Orchestra.
Yes.
Where I've taken my film composing chops, my enforced education in using an orchestra, because that's what film composers do, exactly. And applied it, or rather misapplied it, to these police songs. And the reason they were deranged is because I had to use these songs for my film that I made, and they didn't. Film music has to be very malleable. Sting was busy writing hits, but when I'm trying to use Roxanne to score this movie, I have to cut it up a little bit. And as soon as I got the scalpel out, I discovered, and I got the multi-tracks of all these songs, I discovered lost vocal ideas, lost guitar lines, solos, and so on. And as soon as I started digging, I started finding all this very cool stuff. And so that's where the derangements, and also they're orchestrated. So it's a big ass orchestra with three soul sisters on the mic, and me blasting away, aggressing upon the drums. Still got guitar and bass, but mainly it's about the orchestra. And since I've learned this orchestra stuff, I've figured out how to make the orchestra rock. If I can't bring the building down with 50 guys, something's wrong with that. But the thing is, the orchestra is not usually applied to that. Orchestras usually they're dressed up, they're playing serious music, actual serious music, which is what they're for. But when they're playing not serious music, i.e. rock, they can rock. If you give them the right charts, they will burn down the building.
Speaking of recording, is this something that will be recorded, or maybe in the future a project?
Very likely, because it's going so well. I mean, we've done a couple shows, and it really does work. And there's another thing, which is that, of course, my day job is writing new music. I had an opera premiere in Germany this year, and I've got another one opening in Italy next year. And so I write new music, concerts and orchestral music of various different kinds. But this is a different mission. It's songs that people know. And there's a power that comes from nostalgia. And I argue with Sting over there. And then we debate with Sting. He doesn't like nostalgia. He doesn't like to look backwards. He likes to look forward. But as a musician on stage, there's nothing more powerful than nostalgia. When a song is known, you know that song. You grew up with that song. It's a part of your life. It has an emotional power that is, when we used to go on tour, our new album, the new songs on the new album, people kind of clap politely. But the songs from the last album, they go nuts because they know it, because they've had life experience associated with those songs. And so this time I'm going out with songs that people know and love. And it's quite amazing. Usually when I play on the bill with Stravinsky and Mahler and so on, in that world of core classics, a really good night is a standing ovation. I'm very happy to get, that's a really great night. okay, we play Roxanne, Message in a Bottle, Can't Stand Losing You. And the audience rushes the stage and they're all, like this, and they're singing all the songs. The orcs are, wow, this is cool. And they light up too. Turns out, not many of my rock and roll friends know this, but they are actually, I won't say our brother musician, more like our cousin musicians.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of orchestrations. Metallica really brought it to light. A couple years or 20 something years ago now, and it's really kind of been embedded into rock, I think, ever since that.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Before. Yeah.
Orchestras can rock.
Oh, absolutely. And when you put on this show, what are you hoping the audience takes from it?
Freak out.
I like it.
No, well, I'm hoping that they will also achieve some new insight as to the meaning of the universe, atomic structure, quarks might even be more comprehensible to them after a night of, every little thing she does is magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to ask, you mentioned, you kind of alluded to it earlier, letting that orchestra really bring down the house, burn it down. What is the process for you like to take a rock song and make it an orchestral piece? What goes into that?
Well, for the vocals, there's no way to replace Stingo except with 3 soul sisters on the mic. When we used to do our shows and Sting would be singing his song and allegedly Andy and I are doing backing vocals. The only time I would ever do or even pretend is if he's playing, he looks around, over his left shoulder and I go, oh yeah, I can't stand it. But most of the time when he's busy singing facing frontward, I was just, because I'm busy playing drums, I'm breathing hard, I'm working back here, okay? You do your own damn singing. But in this show, I've got 3 beautiful soul sisters on the mic who do all the harmonies. They really deliver. It's like the Chiffons or the Ronettes or the Supremes. It's really, they really do nail it. And I've got on guitar Rusty Anderson, who I've borrowed from Paul McCartney and who I used to play in a band with way back when. And the mighty Prince of Cameroon, Armand Sabal Leko on bass, who with his African bass vibe is just perfect for these songs. I mean, he's played with Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel. He is really an incredible ethnic bass player with a really super cool groove. Throw on that the big orchestra, and in LA, the Recollective Orchestra, which is very different from the orchestra that I normally play with. Usually I play with Fine Arts Orchestra, the Cleveland Orchestra, which is their purpose is to play the great masterworks of music. And they let their hair down for me. They'll play the chart. They see the audience freaking out. They kind of get a kick out of it. But in LA, I've got the slickest, flinty-eyed musician players because LA cats can read anything. They get new charts every day. They can read batshit on the page. You sprinkles anything on the page and on the staff, they'll play it. And so these guys are particularly slick. They understand syncopation. They understand groove. And this is going to be a particularly cool show because every city I play with a different orchestra, which is something that I tell my rock and roll friends, and they can hardly believe it. I show up in Cleveland or in San Diego or Pittsburgh or Liverpool. I meet the band for the first time, the Orcs, at 2:00 in the afternoon. We get 2.5 hour rehearsal, doors at 7. We play that night.
That's what's amazing about musicians. Even in Nashville, when I lived there, I visited a studio and I asked, I was so ignorant towards it or so green towards it. I said, how long did everybody rehearse? And they just looked at each other, started laughing.
That's right.
I had no clue.
First time
they had sheets.
Exactly. Well, how do you get a guitar player to turn the volume down? Put a sheet of music in front of him.
I love it.
How do you get the keyboard player to turn down? Take a sheet of music away.
Yeah.
So this show, it's November 4th. It's in Northridge. Are tickets still available?
Yes, they are. There are still tickets available. This tends to be kind of a walk-up crowd, which drives everybody crazy. But it'll look great. It'll be a good show.
And it's at the is it the Soraya? Is that how you say it?
The Soraya, yeah. It used to be called the Valley Performing Arts Center. It's a fantastic modern architectural masterpiece with a really great sound, but most importantly of all, excellent showers backstage.
It's right. It's on the campus of CSUB, right?
That's right. Yeah, I did another show there with the orchestra out of Orange County, and I played. I think it was Ben-Hur. I played there, where I have this huge 1920s black and white silent movie, and I worked up an orchestral score, and that was the show that I did there. This is Police Tunes.
Yeah, I used to live when I first moved to California. I lived about a mile from the campus there. It looked beautiful. So it'll be a nice, country. Yeah, be a nice little intimate performance with that. And really, I think fans are going to really enjoy this because there's nothing quite like police music, but then it's orchestrated too. So it's really going to be unique for them if they've not experienced anything like this before, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting and fun.
One thing I want to ask you, Stuart, because having seen you live, I know how massive your drum rig is and how beautiful and gorgeous it is. To the extent that you're involved, what goes into traveling with something like that? Because you could throw a guitar in a guitar case and throw it in the back of a truck, but what goes into roadies exactly?
Yeah, well, having been a roadie, I started out as a roadie. In fact, I'm a glorified roadie. I roadied for Wishbone Ash, for Caravan, and for Curved Air before I got the gig as a drummer in Curved Air. I was their roadie. Actually, in that case, I was the tour manager. But I've paid my dues. So, you show me a backline and I'll get that stuff into the truck.
Absolutely. And I mean, starting out, of course, Matt, you may not know this, but you're your own roadie. So you learn to manage with what you have. And if it's too much, you just don't take it.
And then the guitarist looks for you to heft the other end of his amp.
Yeah. You ask to help with the drums or ask for help with the drums, and they kind of blow you off and go do lead singer, guitarist things, but they want help with their amp.
Exactly.
Now you mentioned you're always
and after
writing
the show, the drummer's breaking down his kit like that while the guitarist is already at the bar picking up the hot chicks.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes because it takes us forever. But you mentioned the new music. Are you perhaps recording anything that we might hear soon?
No, I'm mostly writing these days. I write music for other people to play, and it's kind of sort of rock unfriendly, except for this place where I'm doing these live shows. That's very cool. But the work that I do by day is mostly kind of a conversation killer, but I write opera. I was a film composer for 20 years, and that's how I got my kids through school and college. But now I'm kind of retired from that business, and I do the same job, but I get to be the boss of everything. Film, you're a craftsman working for the director. In television, it's all about the writer. In opera, the composer is boss of everything. And so it's not like a huge industry. It's art for art's sake, but it's artistically very rewarding. And that singing style, okay, you have to drink the Kool-Aid on that. And one day, if you drink enough of that Kool-Aid, you start suddenly, I love that sound. But the use to which, what it is it's a tool. It's a bunch of resources. An opera company has a theater. It has these incredibly highly trained singers. It has an orchestra in the pit. It has all this infrastructure for creating a show on stage. And it doesn't have to be Verdi or Puccini or Wagner. I love all that stuff too, because I'm kind of an opera fan. But I don't expect modern audiences to be fans of opera style. And I'm not here to reproduce what's there before. I bring my sensibilities to that theater, those singers, that infrastructure, and I use those things to make opera that is not like what you've heard before. But those tools, those resources are really a lot of fun to play with. You get to tell a story with music, and music is the central thing that brings it all together. That is a lot of fun. That is a great way to spend a day.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question, and let me explain it. But how does your brain work? I mean, I'm not sure that it does. Because I know so many artists who they're in their genre and that's it. You have done so much in so many different, from rock to orchestrations to film to now opera, which I don't even think I knew from when we talked last time. How do you get into those different headspaces, or is it all one thing for you?
And I can load a truck.
Yep.
It's true.
You know, the brain is an amazing thing. And it's a muscle. If you work it, it can do more. And I'm very lucky, very blessed. I appreciate that some people are not given this gift. They get different gifts, and but I happen to have gotten a couple of gifts. The drumming thing, I work just as hard as other people. Other people work just as hard as me. Somehow I come up with something that other guy didn't think. Well, I don't know. I'm just really lucky and very grateful. Then there's this composing thing, which is an almost unrelated gift. I've got a flood of music going through my head. I know great musicians who are incredible players, but they don't compose. They play other people's music, or it's just they have. And I've got this river. That doesn't mean to say it's any good, or that anyone else will like it. If you're Paul McCartney, that river produces stuff that everybody likes. If you're Frank Zappa, that music comes out in a smaller a smaller demographic gets it. And every musician or composer, hopefully they have enough of a demographic of people who get what they do that they can earn a living. And I feel very grateful that I'm in that position.
And I know this is kind of a wide question because songs come in, different shapes, forms, and take a long time. But do the operas take quite a long time to produce and put together?
Well, there's different stages. First, there's the story, getting the story right. And I work with a librettist, which is a fancy name for a lyric writer. And we figure out the story. We beat it up. The one that opened in Germany this year at the Deutsche National Theater, very high class, was about Nikola Tesla. And we had to find some aspect of his life, some moment in his life that was a story in itself. We didn't want to do his whole life. I was born. And so there's the story. Then the librettist starts writing words. And it's a very particular kind of words. It's dialogue, but dialogue that rhymes and has rhythm. And it's a very rarefied art. And I get in there and I throw in lines and we carve it up between the two of us, but he does the heavy lifting. Then once I've got the libretto, then I start writing music. Then I've got it and I lay down a rhythm, the rhythm of the words, the rhythm of the words, the da-da-da-da-da, the da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. The language has a rhythm which suggests a melody. And I take it from there. I do first pass real quick, just the basic, the rhythm, the tempo. The next, then I start to melodize it a little bit. And I'm now in next year's opera, which is about witches, the Witch's Seed, which has a couple, Chrissy Hind wrote me a couple songs for it. Nice. I'm just finishing that. I'm in the orchestration phase, which actually takes the longest. It takes me about a year. And the orchestration, which is, okay, I got the tunes, I got the lyrics, everything. Okay, now how shall I create these textures around this story and these words? Very engrossing.
Yeah, that's amazing because I can't imagine doing that myself.
It's easier than you think.
Really?
With technology, I don't know how Mozart did it because he had to plan his page and he did it in ink. I've got the blessing of undo. Mm-hmm. I can follow an idea, I can create it, and later for that, undo. And I can put it on the page. I use a computer. There's an application which does a lot of you can map it out. You can do all kinds of things. Those guys in olden times, well, I guess it's because that's all they did every day from the age of 3. They had those chops. But a lot of that, there's technology so that you really, if you have a musical idea in your head, there's technology, GarageBand. And that's a great democratization of music these days. The laptop, you don't have to go off to music school for years. Any kid can pick up a laptop, get some cool samples. If they have something to say, music is right there for them and they can get it released themselves. It's a very democratic world these days. The threshold is way down. Entry level is real easy these days, which is good because the talent pool is huge. Bad news, competition is fierce.
All right.
That's good for the folks listening, but it's tough for young musicians busting through all the noise.
No, absolutely. And anything else, Matt, that you had?
I could talk to Stuart all day. I mean, he's just an absolute genius. I hope you come east to the DC area with this concert. Yes, I'm out in DC. He's a buddy over there's in Bakersfield, and we do these over Zoom, and we get
when I get that gig, when I get that gig at the Kennedy Center, I'll let you know.
Please do, please do. Stuart
and by the way, how's the Bakersfield Philharmonic?
I've never been there, never seen it.
I don't think it exists.
It may not. You might have just stumped me there. Drummer might have stumped another drummer there. I don't know.
Yeah, I just had to ask that question.
Yeah.
Something tells me that there was one, but I really don't know.
Because Bakersfield is such a music city on its own, you'd think. So, guess we got to Google that.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm Googling it.
Even as we speak. You're Googling
Bakersfield Symphony Orchestra. There is one. Absolutely.
I will be there. Let's rock Bakersfield.
Absolutely. Well, Stuart, it's been an absolute pleasure, and glad that we got to chat with you. Anything else that you wanted to throw out there before we wrap this?
I think you got the general idea.
Forgive me for using my phone. I'm trying to find real quick before we wrap this. It has to. I know I used it as a profile photo. You might not be able to see it. 1 second. Trying to find the photo from when you were at Pace.
With Off the Score.
Yeah, here it is. With Off the Score. Yep, here it is.
There you go. What do you know? There we were.
Nice.
That was 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So
you haven't aged a day.
Neither have you, sir.
Well, neither of you. Real quick, it just came to mind since you guys met. Are you doing any meet and greets at this point?
Some of the shows they do, hopefully outdoors.
Yeah. All right, Stuart Copeland, a true pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure thing, guys. Take care now.
You too.
Bye-bye.
So if you're in the Northridge, California area, and for those who aren't familiar with the area, it is in the San Fernando Valley of the Los Angeles area. It's probably 20, 30 minutes tops from Hollywood, depending on traffic, of course. It is Thursday, November 4th. It's at the Soraya, and you heard me mispronounce that earlier, in Northridge. It's at like Cal State. So they've got a really nice university there. And just, like you said, it's walk up. You could still get tickets through their website. Go check that out. You get to hear orchestrated versions of Police songs with one of the writers, the drummer to the Police, on drums for this. So about 50 people on stage, roughly, when you give or take a little. 28-piece orchestra, the Grammy winner. I'm going to try to pronounce this. It's Shashila Alara, I guess, will be conducting it, and also a Latin Grammy winner there. So 28-piece orchestra. Then you have Stuart, and you have the other guitarist, the bassist, and 3 singers as well. So a very interesting show, and perhaps sounds like you might be interested in touring it.
Absolutely. Well, for the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening and watching. Hit that subscribe button and check us out, themusicuniverse.com.